I've been investigating Epstein for 15 years. I had Epstein's black book, and it took me 4 years to get it published by a platform or a media. Someone sent him a picture of an 11-year-old. The government and the media have decided that 14 years old was the youngest victim. And I've known for quite some time that victims have been under 12 years old. There's over 3 million documents that have not been released. We know who the procurers are. We know who the pilots are. We know who drove the cars. We could start indicting them next week.
All right, and welcome back to the Rice Report, everybody. I'm Eric Rice, your host, of course. Good to see you again. Thank you for coming by. Thank you for watching these videos and sharing. We're very organic. It's just a pleasure to be here and be able to have such tremendous guests on here to discuss the things that are happening in the world. And of course, one of probably the biggest news stories in the past 50 years has been these Epstein files. And we are blessed and welcomed to have Nick Bryant back on the show, who is one of the spearheads behind this entire movement to get this information out to the world. How are you, Nick?
I'm good.
Busy times these days, right? Like we have the Epstein files come out, and then we have wars starting and preparations of ground invasions and all kinds of crazy tweets going out around the world. I can't wait to get your opinion on a few things. And before I do that, I want to make it clear to the audience, because some people misconstrue me calling balls and strikes and looking for the truth in the world as being anti-anything. I think I'd speak for Nick on this as well. I am absolutely rooting for any administration that's in charge of my country, period, to do the right thing. But I'm never going to stop searching for the areas in which we need to question as citizens, as Americans, in any level, no matter who's in office, doesn't matter. And we're seeing a lot of strange stuff, and nothing seems to me to be weirder than Melania Trump's press conference, which came out of nowhere. A contact I have says that the White House didn't even know that she was going to do a press conference yesterday. And it was strange timing in a ceasefire with Iran, strange body language, strange verbiage, and then completely, I want to get your opinion. I've been through plenty of the Epstein files at this point. I actually planned on not doing it, but it's just it's that candy on the counter I can't stay away from. Seems very counterintuitive to what is in the Epstein files, that there was zero relationship, no friendship with the Epstein Maxwell crew. Yeah, I understand social parties and social interactions. I've certainly been at parties with people who I don't have anything in common with or spend any time with. But there's quite a few of these interactions, Nick. So I want to get your opinion on this very weird press conference yesterday, because it was weird on every level to me. Timing, body language, statement, content, context. Maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing. I just want to get your take on this, Nick.
Well, Epstein is a cancer.
Yeah.
That has consumed our country. So when the First Lady came out and said, we need to investigate this, we need to do a better job, as strange as it was, I think it's a very good thing.
Oh, absolutely. That part. Absolutely.
And I'm hoping that our politicians follow her suggestion, although I'm leery of that at this point. Our politicians and the administration haven't done the right thing. The Oversight Committee has ostensibly been subpoenaing people and holding hearings, but their witnesses have been lying with impunity.
Yes.
And granted, I know that the Department of Justice probably wouldn't indict anybody at this point, but at least the congressmen and congresswomen can put in referrals for indictments. And I haven't even seen that.
Yeah, it's, the part about investigating, there's so much stuff going on. We don't know. Is she doing that to bring it to light, to put pressure on people for the victims of the Epstein case? I mean, that part is fantastic. We should all be doing that. But it comes with all the other territory, right? There's a lot of good things our administration's doing. At the same time, they're enriching themselves beyond anyone's imagination of a president. I mean, $4.5 billion enrichment. Makes it hard to trust somebody when that happens. Now we have this, please, Congress, please investigate this. I love it. But previous to that I did, we ran into him at some parties. I didn't really have a relationship with him. And the emails completely contradict that. I'd be okay if, I think the whole world would be okay. Like, hey, listen, I was really close to these people. I was really friends with them for a long time. And then I figured out who they were and I walked away. That would be a statement I could take. But the blatant denial and separation of the two is kind of what's frustrating me. Does that make sense?
Yes. Well, the thing about Epstein, as I understand Epstein, I've been investigating Epstein for 15 years. I think that someone wouldn't have to hang out with Jeffrey Epstein very long to know exactly what he was about.
100%. Yeah.
He kind of wore it on his sleeve. So, given the amount of time that the Trumps spent with Maxwell and Epstein, it would be very difficult for me to believe that Trump didn't know what was going on.
I agree. I mean, how do you not know? I mean, some of the statements this guy has made over a 25-year period are just, some of them are jaw dropping. And at the same time, again, I don't want to give any leeway to anyone because I just want the truth behind this. I would love to see prosecutions, but like you said, there hasn't been a single referral for indictment. It's not going to happen. The new attorney general is not going to be our guy, right? Like he might be worse than Pam Bondi in the end.
Well, Pam Bondi had lost all credibility.
Yeah,
a long time ago, and she lied to us, and so even before Trump jettisoned her, Todd Blanche was essentially running the Department of Justice.
Yeah, for months and months and months coming into this. So, are there any big updates or changes or anything you found in the files? I mean, where we talked about 3 months ago, and you were just right when they kind of came out, and you were kind of digging through them still at that time. Has there been anything revelatory? I to be honest with you, Nick, aside from the creepy stuff about genetics and babies and things like that, his conversations back and forth to me were pretty nebulous. I mean, there's certainly nefarious innuendos in there, but nothing blatant.
Well, I think that I loved the torture video.
That was crazy. Crazy.
It's pretty blatant. And the fact that someone sent him a picture of an 11-year-old is pretty bad.
But not shocking. Like I expected to see that in droves in there, right? Like we were expecting to see that.
Well, here's the thing about that. The government and the media have decided that 14 years old was the youngest victim. And very rarely were they 14 years old. And I've known for quite some time that victims have been under 12 years old. And I've known for quite some time that the pedophiles in his network, some of them were extremely sadistic. So those emails have corroborated that for me. And because I've taken some heat over the years, and I've known this for years about the sadism of some of the perps and also the ages of some of the victims. And people just haven't wanted to hear that. And so I'm glad that information is out there and I'm corroborated. I've been corroborated, on everything pretty much.
Yeah, I think the thing that the bombshells I was looking for in there, this is one thing I think we talked about last time, is I was looking for an email in there that was like, hey, listen, you're going to do this or I'm going to share this to the news or what have you. No real blatant blackmail, which tells me these people weren't being blackmailed. They just wanted to be part of it. Like you said, they were sadistic.
Not necessarily. I mean, there was an email to Bill Gates that kind of implies blackmail. But there's over 3 million documents that have not been released.
Yep.
And I think if we dig deeper into that, I'm pretty sure some blackmail emails would come up. But blackmail is something that our government has really hidden. Since I started researching the Franklin scandal in 2002, 2003, I've known that a number of our legislators were compromised, blackmailed. And that is something that the government has fought really hard, or people within the government have fought really hard to make sure that isn't disclosed. I see what's been done to me. I spent 7 years on the Franklin scandal, and I'm a conspiracy theorist. And there on Wikipedia, there are the.
Why we love you, Nick.
In Wikipedia, there are the Franklin child abuse allegations that read nonsensical, like some schizophrenic wrote, and I have tried to get that page changed, and many other people have tried to get that page changed. But I've even called the weasel, Jimmy Wales, and I got his cell phone number. I'm good at getting people's cell phone numbers. I called him up, and he said he'd look into it, and then he sent me an email or a text. I can't remember which one, saying that, yeah, I don't see anything here to change here. So the fact that that page has been locked down, and you cannot even access it. It's locked down. It just shows that that's something that the government, or some dark malignant corner of the government that has tremendous power, does not want to come out at all.
Many such examples too. The internet, as freeing as the internet has become for information, it's also become very cornered in certain aspects to make sure that certain narratives remain in perpetuity without recanting statements or retracting any sort of falsehood out there. So you still have that battle that's happening. But are we making are you getting any sense that we're kind of making any headway with the Epstein files right now? Because like I put a tweet out the other day that was pretty popular. And when you look at the facts, you start to realize we spent, I don't know, 10, 12x more money proving baseball players use steroids than we have on any justice or dissemination of Epstein files. Is there any leeway that you're seeing or hearing about through your contacts that this may be moving forward, or is it dying?
Well, when you have a pathology, there's three phases of it. There's awareness of it, there's acceptance of it, and then there's action. And I think at this point, the vast majority of Americans have awareness of Jeffrey Epstein. Now, I know that a lot of them don't think it was as bad as it was, but I also believe that a lot of them believe that the government has covered up child trafficking. And at this point, it's just a matter of collecting people. Politicians have been reluctant. Epstein Justice were working on an independent congressional commission. And independent congressional commissions they often employ non-government personnel for investigations or whatever they're looking into. And that's what we're going to need, is we're going to have to bounce this outside the shackles of our political edifice and have people that aren't affiliated with the government really investigate this. That's what we're going to need. If this goes to a subcommittee, it's just going to die.
100%.
And the way that the oversight committee has allowed these witnesses to lie to them is kind of staggering, as I said earlier. So I do believe we're making progress. It's the mainstream media really has said, I mean, it's reported on salacious things, but I'm not aware of any outlet that has said, this is really bad and we got to do something about it. So it's fundamentally up to the American people, and people are reluctant to embrace causes regardless of how noble they are. But I think once enough people see enough people embracing what we're trying to do, then I think we can create a juggernaut. There's like 300 million adults in the United States right now. And if we had 10% of them backing Epstein Justice, we could get an independent congressional commission.
What's the road to this commission? Like, what is the difficulty? Who needs to approve it? Like, the government needs to approve it, right?
Well, you need it doesn't require a presidential signature, but it needs a majority in the House and the Senate. And For the Epstein Transparency Act, we saw a majority in the House and a majority in the Senate, although it was under very strange conditions. But I think that the House's 218 votes wasn't nearly as manipulated as the Senate voting 100% for the Epstein Transparency Act. I think that the administration realized that once the discharge petition was signed by 218, that it was going forward. And then the Trump administration and the Senate just caved in, and the Senate voted 100-0, and then Trump signed it. And I think that was, the administration realized that it wasn't, that it couldn't stave off this. And I think that it was thought that, well, we can control the amount of information that's disseminated. I think that was the ultimate plan.
So that's hopeful. That's very hopeful. So say the independent commission gets approved and the findings come back, everything's redacted. I would assume that in this environment, these emails would be redacted, because almost every email you read where your jaw drops, you're like, who did he send this to, or who sent it to him? And that's the part we don't have. That would be the kind of the thing you'd hold in your back pocket. I understand that. But in this redacted environment, if there were an independent commission and you did have findings that were incriminating, what would be the power of this commission to be able to force Congress to take action?
Well, the thing about it is, we don't really need any documents anymore.
Right. We
didn't even need the latest tranche of documents. We know who the recruiters and the procurers are. Mm-hmm. We know who they are. We know who the pilots are. We know who drove the cars. We know all these people that facilitated Epstein's child trafficking. And especially with the procurers and the recruiters, we could start indicting them next week on multiple counts of child trafficking. And that's a heavy sentence in the federal system. That's 15 to life. So if they got indicted on 5 to 10 counts of child trafficking, they're going to roll over on the perps. And the government has even confessed that there are 1,200 victims that they know about. So there's plenty of witnesses between the victims and the procurers and the recruiters to put these guys away. So that's what an independent congressional commission would help facilitate.
And what type of road is that to get the approval to create this commission? I mean, that's what you guys are doing right now at work every day. You're literally trying to do this. So walk the audience through what the steps are to be able to get this in front of Congress.
Well, we need a majority in the House and a majority in the Senate. Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna.
Simple majority? Just a simple majority, or is it
simple majority?
Simple majority.
Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna have endorsed us. The other politicians have been quite reluctant, which I understand. But I think that we're going to get a number of politicians. You know, it's kind of strange. I thought, well, once Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna endorse this, then, you know, that should open it up to other politicians. And the thing about it is, if they endorse an independent congressional commission, that means that people are going to have to do something, that people are going to fall. So it's going to be a dogfight, but it's our only chance, really. I mean, and the way that this oversight committee has operated has just reinforced my belief that we have to bounce it outside the political system.
I think that was apparent from the very beginning, considering many of the people who will pay a price for this are sitting in those chairs.
Yes.
Right. A criminal's never going to vote for their own trial. Right. That's just never going to happen.
Well, I'll give you an example. Representative Garcia, who is the ranking member of the Democrats on the Oversight Committee, he published something on Instagram about how we need justice and how we're not getting justice. And we comment bombed him. That's one of our tactics. There were like 500 comments that he should vote for an independent congressional commission, that Epstein justices. And he actually came out and said Les Wexner was lying when he was testifying. He actually came out and said that. But he made no referrals for indictments. And after we comment bombed him, we thought for sure he would join Epstein justice. So I emailed his chief of staff, and I didn't get an email back. And I emailed his chief of staff again, and I didn't get an email back. So despite him saying that the witnesses are lying, he's not willing to endorse an independent congressional commission.
Words are cheap. Words are very cheap.
Words are very, very cheap, yeah. But we have to plug away at this. I mean, if we want truth in the Epstein case, this is what we have to do. Right now, we have a government that is covering up child trafficking. And when you cover up a crime, you're aiding and abetting that crime. So right now, we have a government that is aiding and abetting child trafficking. Now, we would never, ever trust anyone who was aiding and abetting child trafficking. If someone lived next door to us and we found that they were aiding and abetting child trafficking, we would do everything we possibly could to stay away from them. So we have a government now that's aiding and abetting child trafficking, and it cannot be trusted. We cannot trust our government if it's going to continue with that type of illicit behavior.
Among many other reasons not to trust them. I mean, we didn't have reasons to trust them for the last 60 years, and we did somehow. And there are somehow still people who don't see that point of view, which your point of view is 1,000% correct. You are an accomplice to the crime when you aid and abet knowingly. And I think that is a big difference. And a lot of the stuff is knowingly and unknowingly. This is knowingly. There's no question this is knowingly aiding and abetting, or at least looking the other way, which is the same thing.
It's aiding and abetting. Regardless of how you cut it, it's aiding and abetting.
100%. 100%. So now they have all these other agendas, right? So during this process, you guys are starting to gain a lot of traction for this independent counsel. And then we went to war with Iran. And has that blocked the movement or the pathway or the momentum that you've been building with the release of the files? Or has that actually not gotten in the way at all?
Well, I mean, it's the media has completely shifted to Iran.
Yeah.
But with regards to Epstein, the toothpaste is out of the tube.
Very much so.
And it's not going back. Epstein will be waiting for us whenever that insane war concludes.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, we're not going to get into that, but there are a lot of very insane things that are happening over in that region of the world right now. Sad things, extremely sad things. Lebanon is turning to dust, but that distracts, right? So I don't know if that's the intention of it or it was pre-planned or what have you. I was just always curious. One of the reasons I want to talk to you today is like, has momentum slowed during this? And it sounds like it hasn't, except for media attention. But like you said, the toothpaste out of the tube. There's you don't really need the coverage on Epstein. I think most of the country is outraged that nothing has happened thus far. And I think that's a great thing, a great momentum builder for you guys.
When I started this 2002, 2003, when I investigated the Franklin trafficking network, and then we published a book in 2009, 2010, nobody wanted to touch it. We could not give that book away. And I spent 7 years of my life investigating that book. And I knew that the bar was going to be high, and I think that I met it. So when I see now that everybody is at least aware that the government has aided and abetted child trafficking, they're not quite thinking that way. They're thinking, well, it covered it up, or some people covered it up. The fact that it's gotten this far is actually kind of a dream come true to me. Just the fact that it's gotten this, because I've went through years of despondency, thinking that it wasn't even going to get, I had Epstein's Black Book in 2011,
Mm-hmm.
and it took me 4 years to get it published by a platform or a media. So, and then once it was published, I mean, the gates opened and tons of ink have been spilled on the Black Book. I mean, only 2 publications have accredited me with ushering it to the public consciousness. But the fact that we've gone this far is really huge, and it's the first step.
I want to ask you so bad, but I know you probably won't answer this. How did you get the Black Book?
It was through
You don't have to answer it.
Well, it was through an attorney for some of the victims.
So they got it as evidence.
And then I also got the flight logs a couple years later, again through an attorney for some of the victims.
So totally legal. But the funny part is that when you go online, there's like 30 people that take credit for doing that, right? I released it. I'm like, no, that was Nick Bryant. Like you can look back at sources. You can see exactly where the release came from. That was you. And I'm actually grateful and thankful. I think it's a dream come true that you're still alive at this point, Nick. That you haven't been Hillaried at this juncture.
I ask that all the time when they meet me. How are you still alive?
Yeah. Like, I'm surprised that you haven't been found somewhere in a park and some crazy story came up. I'm thankful for that every day because you're such a nice man. And
there has been immense harassment on multiple levels. I will say that.
Tell us a little bit about that if you can.
Well, phone calls, identity theft, the IRS taking a very close look at me. Things like
number
that.
one tactic, yeah.
So, yeah, and actually, my identity was just stolen quite recently. Now, it could be just someone who's stealing my identity, but then it could be my foes, and I tend to lean towards my foes because I know how nasty and vicious they are.
And you have plenty of foes with this type of, especially the Franklin book coming out. We get off camera sometime. I'll tell you a story that I have about that. I don't want to share it on air because I literally would have to share the guy's name. But there was a guy trying to make a movie about it that went through very similar things, and movie obviously never happened. So that's that. I can only imagine how difficult life has become. What about work? Have they like kept you when you put that book out? How hard was it to find work after that?
It was very difficult. To tell you the truth, I'm amazed that I've been able to make a living as a writer, because a lot of the publications that I wrote for have gone under. I mean, and that's the internet. I mean,
yeah,
the internet is just. But then I don't think there's any mainstream media magazine that would probably allow me to write an article.
No.
And you can go to my LinkedIn and see how accomplished I am as a writer. So I have been able to make a living as a writer. And to tell you the truth, I don't even know how I've been able to do it. There's been some angst for sure, and some financial insecurity, but I've been able to do it.
Well, you're the walking definition of Ephesians 5:11 in the Bible. Do not partake in the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. And I think, God's going to watch you over these things. Whether you believe in God or not, I don't know what that answer is.
I do believe in God, and I do believe that I've had definitely an angel that's guided me, because over the years, I've been at this 23 years, and I've certainly been in some dicey situations, and there's been, as I said earlier, a lot of harassment. But then, on the other hand, there's a lot of people that know who I am and what I've done. And I know that those malignant people in the government that do this type of stuff, they don't want a martyr. Danny Castellaro really backfired on them. I think on that dark malignant corner of intelligence, I think that they thought that they could kill Danny Castellaro with impunity, and that wasn't the case. And even the mainstream media engaged to make Danny Castellaro look delusional, but ultimately, American Conspiracy, which is on Netflix about Danny Castellaro, really showed that he was right on track with everything.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, the last thing they want is especially in today's environment, you actually probably feel safer today than ever before, because a martyr would be the absolute worst scenario to be in for them.
I think
I hope you feel that safe, Nick. I really do. Like I we got to know each other a little bit here in a few interviews, and like I always get off here and I'm like, he's such a nice man. I really pray every day that someone or something is watching out for you.
There's been a lot of prayers for me over the years, including my own. So, but I'm very committed to this path. I mean, what am I've been at this 23 years. I mean, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to work at a parking lot or become a certified public accountant? I mean, there's no existential U-turn for me at this point.
True. You know, the one thing I think, and everyone who's watching this, you should be following Nick on X. We're going to go through ways to follow him here at the end. But, you know, one thing I really love about your approach is that, you know, the Epstein, and it seems to be any topic in the world today, whether it's like Israel or what have you, everyone kind of does a dig on it. They get some information on it, and then they're totally radicalized. And instead of being objective and trying to find the truth, they're just trying to prove the hunch that they have, or the data that they have. And I think one of the things that one of the reasons that you're about the only person I bring up here to talk exclusively about the Epstein files, because of the fact that you can remain balanced. You know, everyone's like, oh, Trump's in there, we got Trump, or oh, this guy's in there, we got that. Well, we don't know. And what we do know is there's a lot of bad people doing a lot of bad things over a really long period of time, and we want justice on whoever that is. But, you know, you really do remain consciously objective in these scenarios where you're looking at them black and white, balls and strikes, but you continually push the ball forward to try to get this justice so that we can know who we're supposed to be radicalized towards, which may be all of them in the end. We don't know. But is it difficult to maintain that balance, knowing all the stuff you know and what you've had? I mean, is that how you got here, was by looking at things and saying, I don't know, here's what's happening, here's the people involved, we need justice for this?
Well, I mean, when the documents were released, a lot of those documents are disinformation, which is premeditated, misinformation, which is not premeditated, it's just wrong information, and then a bunch of them are dripping with evil. And I stubbed my toe a few times on those. With there was an email that it was really the Sultan from the United Arabs that sent Epstein the videotape, but then someone had put Peter Mandelson in.
Yeah.
So I mean, stuff like that. And then there was a picture of ostensibly a 9-year-old, but there was formatting difficulties, and actually it was a 19-year-old.
I remember that. Yeah, with the asterisk.
You've got to be really, and I kind of jumped on all that stuff, and then I stubbed my toe a few times, and I realized, I've got to step back, and because there was just so much information coming out, and I was trying to take it all in, and I wasn't investigating the emails like I should have, because there were just so many of them. And but now I'm kind of more tempered in my response to those emails.
And you have to be, because they do throw curveballs in there. Like there's a video of a young lady chained to the ground, being burned with a magnifying glass, that everyone's like, see, because the guy looked like Epstein, but that video was proven to be fake like 6 years ago.
Yeah,
it came out 6 years ago, but they included it.
Didn't stub my toe on.
Oh, everyone does. Everyone does. I mean, that's the entire purpose. Is I think they just threw everything out at everyone. I know that they know what's real and what's not. I mean, with the resources of the government, they certainly could vet this stuff in a matter of a year, day, week, whatever they wanted. But they certainly threw out intentionally fake information into the world. So everyone did that, Nick. I mean, everyone did this. I remember being on Twitter commenting to people about that video the day that people are like, look, this is, I'm like, guys, that was debunked like 5 or 6 years ago. Here's the article proving it. Here's the actor's name in the video. And then of course I got ragged, like, were you defending? I'm like, no, I just want the truth. That's not him. It's horrible. It's disgusting. You shouldn't even watch this video, but it's not him. Like, if we're trying to find Epstein evidence, we should be looking for Epstein evidence and not just whatever's handed out.
Well, there's an email where Epstein or one of his minions orders cages, and someone put on Twitter that it's come out that they kept children in cages. Actually, I think that those were for birds. And I said, do you have any information that these kids were being kept in cages? I haven't come across that yet. And then I got kind of a snippy reply, even though, I mean, I put a lot of time into Epstein, and then someone responded. Nick Bryant is a good researcher, and he's been at this a long time. You should. But so I haven't found information about children in cages. Now, would it surprise me? I mean, this crew was pretty sadistic and pretty evil. If they kept children in cages, I mean, I wouldn't be. I wouldn't place that outside the realm of reality. I just haven't seen any kind of information or evidence about that.
I think that statement encompasses what a good researcher should be doing. Number one, because everyone's a researcher now, Nick. Right. So in the last 5 years, everyone's become an internet sleuth, and they're all geniuses, and whatever's on Google that they find, it must be true now. It was fake 5 years ago. Now it must be true. But it encompasses that. I think that anyone taking anything, whether it's Epstein or government corruption or any of these videos released by, hidden camera guys, some of those guys are fake in their plants too. You have to be able to look at this stuff and question it. Like, show me proof of that. And the intention is not to prove that Epstein is innocent. It's actually to further the fact that he was a horrible person. And if there is evidence on that the evidence is what we need to know. And at the end of the day, I think the statement you made, knowing more than anyone, I have that same statement. When people say something completely crazy, I'm like, well, what's the proof of that? They're like, well, it's here. And I'm like, well, that's not proof. And they're like, what do you think, it doesn't exist? I'm like, no, I absolutely believe you that is possible. I just want to be able to believe you and back it up when I talk to someone else. And if we're not at that point as a society, we're just looking for fake information and propagating it.
Well, I mean, the mainstream media just focuses on the salacious, and that has unfortunately cascaded down to the general populace. They've been groomed by the mainstream media just to focus on the salacious, and really not to think about all the children that have been destroyed, because the media just doesn't really talk about that, about the children that have been destroyed. They're very good at digging up salacious material, but I haven't, as I said earlier, I haven't seen a lot of evidence of media outlets screaming for justice in this case.
Yeah, they look for salacious and anything on Trump. Those are the two things that they focus on. And, both need to be covered. I understand that, but there's a lot of other stuff in there too. Well, and Bitcoin, right? Like, Bitcoin was the first story of the Epstein files was that he donated money to Bitcoin and Bitcoin core developers in 2011, 2 years after it was developed. But they seem to point out the buzzwords, the things that get them more clicks. And you're an internet writer, you understand how important those clicks are to revenue. And the one thing I want to thank you for is you're not that guy. You're not hunting for headlines and breaking stories. You're literally just seeking the truth, which is probably the rarest thing in journalism today, because now everyone's a journalist and everyone gets paid on X, and it's getting harder and harder and harder to find real information, which is why I try to bring guys like you on the show and get you a following. Like even if 10 people followed you today, at least they'd be following somebody with a level head on their shoulders.
One thing about Twitter is I noticed that, like in the last couple of weeks, I've lost 150 followers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is kind of anomalous, I think.
Sure, and totally intentional. I mean, for me, I think that the environment on Twitter, like I have a big enough following to be monetized. I have enough impressions to be monetized, but they won't allow me to. I asked one time, they said, no, there's this issue and that issue, and I just like I don't care. I work. I don't need money from Twitter. I don't need money from a podcast. I do this stuff because I'm trying to help. But at the same time, you have a lot of people out there who are making a ton of money. And the best way to make money is to get likes and comments and shares. So the most radical information is released immediately when a headline comes out. And now you have all these people who they don't care. I mean, there's some people like you who do care and don't care about the money, but these people who are there for the money, they are flooding the network with instant gratification headlines that feed certain audiences that will click and share instantly. I know that's not a temptation for you, but how do you go through that? Because you're a researcher. I mean, you have your sources, but Twitter is probably still part of your sources. How do you sort through what's real, who's real, and who you pay attention to? How do you go about that?
I mean, everything has to be researched. As I said earlier, on when those documents were released, I stubbed my toe a couple of times because I didn't investigate things the way that I should have investigated them. And then at a certain point, I realized everything, each one of these emails, I need to investigate. I mean, some of them are kind of slam dunks where Epstein responds to assault. I love the torture video. I mean, that pretty much says it all. And as far as the Epstein class goes, Barry Josephson, who is a big-time Hollywood producer, I think he headed Columbia for a while. He tells Epstein, I think I figured out a way to get rid of poor people.
Yeah, I saw that.
Not to get rid of poverty, but to get rid of poor people. And we should discuss. So obviously, and that social Darwinism comes up in a number of the emails. And it's very obvious to me that they play by different rules. And I knew that before, I mean, with the Franklin scandal and other scandals, but this kind of puts it in your face that these guys are social Darwinists. And I think that, and I knew that they were. There was a book written by an economist called Thorstein Veblen. It was published in, I think, 1905. It was called Theory of the Leisure Class. And it's an amazing book because Veblen said that there's the leisure class and they're highly predatory.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, Marx was bouncing around quite a bit. And Marx was saying that the chasm between the bourgeois and the working class becomes so wide that revolution is inevitable. And Veblen, who was ultimately right about this, he said that the leisure class will groom the working class to be like them, to have their predatory traits. And occasionally there'll be people in the working class that will join the leisure class. And I think, and one thing that he really impressed, and he looked at various cultures, the ruling elites of various cultures, and he showed how each one was extremely predatory. So, and those emails, just if you disregard the disinformation, misinformation, and then the evil, it does show that these are extremely predatory people.
Yeah, he made a comment about somebody visited somewhere and talked to a group of Black people, and he was like, they're actually celebrating what we're doing, and right now they should be revolting against us. I mean, they admit these things in these emails, and it is fascinating to watch. I never really. What was the name of that? What was the name of that book? I want to read that.
Theory of the Leisure Class, Thorstein Veblen.
Theory of the Leisure Class, because that makes more sense than anything. 25 years ago, or let's look probably further, 40 years ago, TV shows were like Leave It to Beaver, right? These normal people, Mr. Ed, a guy who was lucky enough to have a horse. And now we have, the Kardashian show, MTV Cribs. There, you can see how that has happened, where they have groomed the working class to be like them, and teaching them business tactics through some of these shows, and Shark Tanks and all these other things, that you can be part of our club too. I never really put that together. That makes more sense than most things I've heard in the last month and a half about how we got here, is that grooming of the working class. Brilliant. I'm absolutely going to be buying that book on Amazon today.
It's a good book.
Yeah.
My favorites.
Well, Nick, we are about out of time here. Thank you so much for being on here again, and sharing this information. Thank you for your approach to all you do, and just the calm that you bring to this storm. How can people follow you? How can they support you? You got your websites and all that stuff, and I'd highly advise folks. I don't take any money for this, but if you feel like donating to this and this hits your heart, this is a worthy cause with good people behind it.
I would suggest, I have my personal website, but I would want people to go to epsteinjustice.com. I don't want people to buy my books. I mean, I wouldn't mind it if they buy my books, but what's more important is they go to epsteinjustice.com and register, attend our webinars. And we do need donations. I was asked by someone, why do you need money? And I replied, well, when I paid the accountant, I didn't really ask her why she needed money.
Right.
So,
right. And you've got people that are working full time on this stuff, and who've left jobs, left their life to try to. Everyone wants this action to happen, and very few take the action.
Most people at Epstein Justice are volunteers.
Yeah.
So
they're taking time away from their families. They're doing all kinds of. And you guys do? Is it a monthly webinar, or is it?
we have a monthly webinar.
Yeah, a monthly webinar where you guys are breaking down the new information, findings, where you're at.
Yeah. It's going to be on Epstein's connections to the CIA.
When's that one?
That is going to be on the 28th of April.
28th of April. So go there to register. Check out the information coming out. Have you had any politicians that have gone to the webinars, like Massey or Ro Khanna or any of these guys who endorse it? Have they gone on the webinars?
No, we have not yet, but that's definitely going to be one of the things that we're going to do. The webinars have been kind of educational.
Yeah.
But the last webinar, we had a couple of Epstein victims that are actually part of Epstein Justice. And then the next one is going to be on Epstein's connections, CIA. And
well, Nick, he doesn't have those. The government already told us that he's not working for any intelligence agency, certainly not the CIA here, definitely not the Mossad in Israel. I think we're going to find out in the end he worked for all of them, and for religious groups that you would never have thought that he worked for, who happen to be big intelligence networks, by the way.
Well, I think that there's enough information floating around where the New York Times came out with an article that said Epstein had no ties to intelligence. It was like 8,500 words, and it deployed 8 New York Times journalists, and the lies of omission there were pretty stunning.
But don't worry, Nick, they'll never pay a price for those lies of omission. It'll never happen. Yeah. Nick Bryant, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. We wish you all the best in your work, my friend.
Okay, great to see you. Bye.
God bless you. God bless this country. We'll see you next time on the Rice Report. Have a good one, everybody.